Hey there, I'm Ken, this is Canadian Retro Things, welcome. Today I'm doing some work on my Apple IIgs. So what am I doing to my Apple IIgs today? Well, one of the problems I currently have with it is it doesn't save any settings when I turn the computer off because, well, it's got no battery on the board. I cut that out as soon as I got the computer because I didn't want it leaking. And the batteries that it takes, well, you can buy new old stock of them, but they're still, 30-year-old batteries, so there's no guarantee that those new old stock ones are even going to work. So I'm putting a little bit more modern solution in there. And I am going to also open up the power supply and get some of the caps in there changed out, especially those reefa caps before you go poof and there's a magic smoke show. So let's take a closer look at the things that I have for doing this little project. But before we get working on this computer, I have to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. So you've been working on that great idea for an add-on piece to your retro computer. You even used PCBWay's 10 PCBs for $5 deal. But did you know that PCBWay can also make a shell to put that PCB in? They can 3D print your design from a number of different materials that you can choose from. Depending on the material you choose, you could even have an option of colors or different surface finishings, including spray painting, electroplating, or detail sanding. PCBWay is a lot more than just the $5 for 10 PCBs deal, so check them out today. So here is my Apple IIgs, looking a little bit yellowed, but hey, I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about the fact that it's running properly. So I will be putting this battery holder to take this battery inside there. Now, I could have used one of the flat cells like more modern computers use, but I had a bunch of these batteries lying around from another project where I was changing all the batteries in a bunch of my Mac LS computers that I picked up at an auction. So yeah, I just looked around and I got a few of these for just like a buck or two. Like they're, I think, worked out to be like 75 cents each. So honestly, yeah, this was lying around. This was super cheap, so nice, cheap way of doing it. And this is a capacitor kit for the power supply that is in this computer. This kit I bought from Console 5. So if you've never checked them out, they're a great place to pick up capacitor kits for various computers and power supplies and things like that. Put a link to this down in the description. Check it out if you're looking for these kits, which they'll source for you all the parts you need, and you don't have to buy a bunch of capacitors you're not going to need. So let's get taking this apart and working on it. And this is a top-down view of the Apple IIgs. The top just goes forward like this. There's a couple of the clips on here that are broken off, so it's more just sitting on there than clipped into place. Power supply slips out this way. Then you can undo it from the board. And then you can see that the battery used to be right here. It's got the positive marked on this end, negative. So what we are going to do is we are actually going to put that on here and then mount it over in the metal part here with some double-sided tape, just so that if the battery does end up leaking, it won't be leaking onto the board. Now, to get the board out, it's actually clipped into place, but first you got to take this front piece off. And if you flip the computer over, you can see there's 3 clips here, 2 going one direction, 1 going the other direction, that you have to get off. Best is actually to hold it out over a table or have something under it to keep it up off the ground. And after a few minutes of struggling with that, it comes out. You just gotta pry it in just the right way. Once you have the front of the board off, you have to disconnect the speaker wire. And then you have 4 clips here, 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 and here. That's what holds the motherboard down. So, just moving across the board one at a time. And there we go. The motherboard is now out. Now, I mean, the one thing I could have done, there's still the wire leads are on the battery terminals here. I could have just soldered straight to those, but I don't want to. I want to unsolder these wires from the board and then solder these wires on. So let's get to doing that. Now, you probably can't see it, but right here, let's see if I got a little pointer here. Right here and right here, those are the two I have to desolder, and I put a little black mark beside them to make sure that I desolder the right things here. So, some flux. And there we go. We are connected. So this is going to mount to the side of the board like that. And this is our power supply. You can identify by what kind of power supply it is. It'll say on the back. So this is an Aztec model AA13581. And if I am correct, this particular one has I think these screws have to come out too. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure if the screws have to come out. We'll find out in a sec. There. Yes, the screws did have to come out. That battery holder is in place. The power brick has the case apart, but I don't want this video to run too long, so I'm breaking it up into 2 parts. So far in part 1, everything has gone nice and smoothly. I only hope it's going to go as smoothly in part 2. But I hope you enjoyed watching me take that Apple IIgs apart, add this little battery holder that will assure that if a battery leaks in there, it won't be leaking onto the circuit board. That's the main reason I'm doing that. So join me in the next video when I will be changing over the capacitors in that power source, and then I am going to be adding the battery to that holder, testing out the computer to see if we get a smoke show or a working Apple IIgs. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what you can do with the liking, the subscribing, or the commenting below, because anything and everything you do is always greatly appreciated. But until that next video, see you later.